Jake Moody missed another one. He's been really bad on the road. He's 2 of 9 from kicks longer than 40 yards on the road this season. It seems like he has the yips. Anytime he has to kick a field goal that's longer than 40 yards and there's any pressure on, I mean, even in a game that didn't freaking matter, he couldn't handle it. Strong leg, not an accurate kicker. And finally, after the game, Kyle Shanahan asked about him, didn't defend him. He blew up on the sideline. And then after the game, he said like, oh, well, I don't have confidence after that kick. He kind of had a word salad that didn't make sense, which is sort of Kyle Shanahan's pattern, but clearly losing confidence in Jake Moody. Is that fair considering Kyle has his own issues and so does the quarterback?
I mean, I understand it. I don't have confidence in him either. I wouldn't have drafted a kicker in the 3rd round like Kyle did. So, I mean, Kyle's ultimately responsible for that. You don't like Jake Moody, you probably shouldn't have drafted a kicker in the 3rd round. But, it does bug me that he continues to – he's trying to hold Jake Moody accountable and kind of throw Moody under the bus. So I don't have confidence in him basically because of what he did. Like, well, what about Kyle? Right? In the 4th quarter, he's awful. When the 49ers are trailing by 8 points in the 4th quarter, he's 0-43, which is the worst since 1991. The only 2 worst are Don Capers and Bobby Ross. So to throw Moody under the bus the way he did, I didn't really like that considering you drafted him. He's here because of you. You spent a 3rd round draft pick on him, and you're awful in the 4th quarter. Why don't you talk about that? It just bugs me.
Yeah, to me, like there are certain things on this team that are a direct reflection of Kyle Shanahan's ego. Like Kyle Shanahan, I can't prove it, but I think he's heavily involved in drafting in the first 4 rounds. 1, 2, 3, 4. Because that 5th round is a magic round. All of a sudden, the Niners become way better at drafting in the 5th round. I think if the Niners have a pick in rounds 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it's time to pick a skill position player on offense, Kyle's making the pick. Or the kicker. Like he didn't choose the kicker, but he told his team, I want a kicker, the best kicker in the draft, find him. So when you see Jake Moody flailing around, missing field goals, having the yips, he's on the team because Kyle made a personnel decision that he wasn't qualified to make. When you look at Ricky Pearsall committing 2 illegal formation penalties on the same drive, why is he on the team? Again, he would have been a 3rd round pick. Kyle made him a 1st round pick because of Kyle's ego. Kyle thinks he's a personnel guy and he thinks he's smarter. I guess he thinks he's smarter than everyone else. I'll take Jake Moody in round 3. I'll be the only coach in the league who would take Ricky Pearsall in round 1 because I'm smarter than everyone else and they can't see what I see. And it's like, you're not. Yeah. We know you better than you know you. And you're not smarter than everyone else. You're not. There's a lot of smart coaches in the league.
What we see right now with Ricky, I think it's pretty clear to me, he's not a 1st round talent. Now, he might be
Never
fine.
Was.
He might be fine, he might be good, but I didn't think he was a 1st round talent at the time. And I think when we watch him, there's nothing like 1st round talent. Like there's nothing that pops out at you with Ricky Pearsall that makes you think that guy is a 1st round talent. Like you don't see that with Ricky. Now, he might be good, he might have a good career, but he's not a 1st rounder. I don't think anyone thought that at the time, and I think it's pretty evident. I mean, if you look at Malik Washington, that's who I wanted the 49ers to get at wide receiver. The Dolphins got him in the 6th round, and his productions is pretty damn close to Ricky Pearsall, and he's actually faster. So it was a reach for them to get Ricky Pearsall. I do think, Kyle was at least involved on that Jake Moody decision. And I think you're right on the skill players, right? I don't know how involved he is on the offensive line. You might leave that up to Forrester.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I would agree. I don't think he's being like, no, that's the right guard for us. I don't think he's like that. But I do think he's picking wide receivers. And I think what's interesting, and running backs and maybe corners too. Because I think what's interesting is maybe not corners. I don't think he picked Ronaldo Green. But again, he could say, I want the corner in round 2. I want the corner in round 3. You pick him. And he like paints the organization into a corner like that. And I think what's interesting is they had a lot of examples where they'll double up in a position in a draft. This year they did it wide receiver, round 1, round 4, end of round 4. And I almost feel like Kyle makes his picks and then he loses interest or whatever and turns it over to the scouting department and says, okay, you guys can make your picks now. And depending on how they feel about Kyle's picks, maybe they'll double up on a position and be like, you know what? This wide receiver we're taking at the end of round 4, we think he's going to be better than the one you took in round 1. Let's see. We're not really that into that wide receiver you took, so we're going to double up. We'll see what happens. You know that tight end you took in round 3? We're taking the tight end in round 6, round 7.
Yeah.
And we think they're comparable. You know that corner you took in round 3, Ambry Thomas? We're taking one in round 5. We think he's better. So we'll see, Kyle. It almost feels like a vote of no confidence from the front office when they do that.
Are we not sure that Cowing?
And it's like, why didn't he play Jacob Cowing?
Cowing could be better. So Cowing got a couple of snaps in the game yesterday, and I want to go back and watch his all 22, but he looked fast. Like he looked like he was a struggle for the DBs to cover when I watched him in the game. Every time I had an opportunity, I would watch him, and he was burning people out there.
Remember when the Niners used to have like a jet sweep motion before a lot of plays?
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that much anymore because Debo's not that threatening. They could do it with Jacob Cowing, but they just don't play him because, I don't know, maybe Kyle didn't handpick him. Who knows, dude?
Yeah. They're putting Pearsall in motion quite a bit. When he's on the field, he seems to be the guy that they put in motion. Yeah.
It's funny. We talk about them being kind of slow on offense, but Jacob Cowing's one of the faster players in the league. They just choose not to play him.
Yeah.
I wonder whoever picked Jacob Cowing, how they feel about that.
Man, he had a hell of a play. Brock Purdy underthrew him in that game where they hit him deep, but it was underthrown. It should have been a touchdown. Kind of the story, unfortunately, for Brock Purdy this year is underthrowing guys, missing out opportunities to get touchdown. But Cowing looked really freaking good. Better catch than anything Ricky's had so far this year.
Bill Kennedy wants to know, is Kyle capable of change?
Capable and willing are two different things. I think everyone's capable. Is he willing? I don't think so.
Yeah, like to change with the Niners, he would have to make a conscious choice because no one's going to force him to change. If he got fired or traded and wound up in Chicago coaching Caleb Williams, he might have to.
Yeah.
Although he's been on a few different teams in the NFL, and I don't think he's changed at all. Like, if anyone wants to argue with me on that one, I'm open-minded, but he seems like essentially the same guy he always has been.
To make a old timers reference, he thinks he's the bee's knees, right? Like he doesn't need to change.
He thinks he's the bee's knees. He thinks he's the coolest guy and the smartest man in the room. Results be damned. So things looking up for the Niners. Thanks for watching, everyone. Really upbeat, positive, uplifting show as we like to do here. Make sure you like and subscribe my channel, Ryan's channel. And stick around. This offseason is going to get weird, and we'll be here to chronicle for you.
It's already weird.